Welcome peeps, it's Marvin here with another video, and this one is about why I always believed that we would be a better team without Harry Kane in it. Now this is actually probably a controversial position to have because Harry Kane is viewed, rightly so, as a Spurs legend. He will go down as an all-time great. He's in the history books. He's our all-time goal scorer. And his accomplishments at Spurs from a goal-scoring perspective and what he represented on the field of play, he definitely made the most of his talents and he definitely carried Tottenham for a number of years. So I want to get that out there first because I want to acknowledge Harry Kane in that Harry Kane has been a massive part of Tottenham's history. He scored untold goals. He's become a all-time goal scorer, and he's bailed us out of a lot of situations on his own single-handedly at a time. So this is not a slight against Harry Kane. However, I've always been of the view, and I say always, probably, like I said, going back since the Pochettino era, I've always been of the view that Harry Kane was the problem in Tottenham, not the solution, right? There was a lot of times when people felt that we needed to build a team around Harry Kane and that the board needed to back the managers and all this sort of stuff. And again, this is not necessarily incorrect in terms of if Spurs were going to put other players around Kane, then sure, right? But they would have needed to put other top players around Kane in order for that to happen. The problem that happened with Tottenham with Harry Kane is that they became so reliant on Kane, such they developed a healthy codependency with Kane that I actually think Tottenham as a football club and as a team suffered. And so, and actually hindered our progress. Now this started back, so let me just take you back to where I feel this started. This started during the Pochettino era. Now I don't know if you remember, when we had that team during the first couple of seasons when Pochettino was there, so the season when we challenged for the title with Leicester City and Chelsea, those seasons there, we had Harry Kane, Christian Eriksen, and Dele Alli. These were three players for me. And you could probably throw someone like Hugo Lloris in there. In fact, I'm going to throw Hugo Lloris in there. Not so much at that time, but just throughout the course over time, right? Those were four players, definitely, that you knew Pochettino was never dropping them. And for a period of time, it was understandable because their form merited their position in the team. But there was a point during Pochettino's tenure, maybe after the third season, where I just noticed there was an unhealthy relationship for me with the manager and these players. So there was periods where Dele Alli, Eriksen and Harry Kane would go multiple games with poor form. And I mean a lot of games. We're talking about almost up to 10 games where these guys were just not performing. And Pochettino would never ever take them off. He would never take them off, even though at the time, and these may be less than, they might not have the same quality as these players, but he would never bring on the Moras. He would never bring on the Llorentes and whoever else that was in the squad. Now, granted, we didn't have the best squad, but again, I'm going to go to the reasons why that was the case as well. But there was this behavior from Pochettino that he never ever either dropped them or substituted them even when they were playing poor. Towards the end of his tenure, he started to take off Dele Alli a bit more because it just got ridiculous at this point when Dele Alli wasn't performing. But that was a long time before he was doing that. And the same was true as Eriksen. Before, maybe about a year and a half before Eriksen left, Eriksen was putting in subpar performances, but it was never dropped. He was never starting on the bench. He was never subbed. And this stuff was just, I feel, was very toxic. And so, but obviously what happened was we eventually got rid of Eriksen. We eventually got rid of Dele Alli. And so Kane is the person who was the survivor out of all of that. So eventually we did get rid of those players. But what happened is then Kane started to fulfill the roles that Dele Alli and Eriksen played, both in terms of creating and also getting goals, right? Which is why Kane's numbers improved, right? He was getting more goals because he was being more involved in the play, both from an assisting point of view, a creating point of view, and a goal scoring point of view. But it also meant that he was never dropped, even when Kane was poor. And let's be real, Kane had a lot of poor games. If you're just talking about it from a performance standpoint, where he was anonymous in a lot of games. And one of the places where this can be highlighted, which is the most obvious place for me, is when the Champions League. Now, Tottenham got to the Champions League final without Harry Kane. Yeah, they knocked out Man City. I think Harry Kane rolled his ankle in the first leg, maybe halfway through the first half. Right, Spurs won that game 1-0. Then they went to the Etihad and they won that one with the VAR decision without Harry Kane. Then they went to Ajax and played 2 legs in the semi-finals without Harry Kane. And then they put Harry Kane in the final when Harry Kane wasn't fit. And they dropped Lucas Moura. And everyone knows that Lucas Moura should have played that game. He earned the right to start that game. And if anyone should have been dropped, it should have been either Dele Alli or Eriksen. But Pochettino never did this. And so what happened was, what started to happen was there was an unhealthy, I believe, dependency on Harry Kane. And I don't know where this came from, but eventually we then started to become known, as Pep famously dubbed us, the Harry Kane team. Right? And people would laugh at this. Oh, we're more than Harry Kane, we got Eriksen, but we were the Harry Kane team. We was. But what also showed us other sides of things was that when Harry Kane got injured, and there was a spell where Harry Kane used to always have a spell in the season where he'd get injured. Whenever Harry Kane got injured, we saw that Heung-min Son would step up. And he actually thrived in Harry Kane's absence, right? And also, as a footballing team, we actually got better. We actually started to pass the ball more because we weren't always looking to give the ball to Kane. We weren't always trying to feed Harry Kane. The whole focus around the team was not about Harry Kane. And so we became a better team. And so we saw evidence of this. Like I said, as proven by our route to the Champions League final. And there were many league games when Harry Kane would miss 5-10 games of a season. Son stepped up, other players stepped up. So I was always convinced that Harry Kane was a problem for Tottenham. Not because he himself was the problem, but the relationship that the club had with him, the managers had with him, it was unhealthy. Even to the point where whenever we would look for a second striker for the club, the mentality of whoever we're going to look at has to come and play backup to Harry Kane. This is not how big clubs think, right? Like, we're signing this guy to play backup to this guy. No, we're going to sign other guys to challenge this guy, which either brings the best out of you, or we want this guy to be able to be better than you, so he's the next coming thing. So if you do leave, or if someone does come and put a ridiculous offer and we have to sell you, we've got someone ready-made who can step up and fill the gap. But this was a mentality that we as fans accepted, the managers accepted, the club accepted, and even the media accepted this. I'd always felt like even the questions that would get asked to managers, so how does it, you know what I mean? Like, it will be framed in the context that you're buying a backup striker to Harry Kane. And I never ever liked that. And so the Kane phenomenon became a problem for Tottenham as a club because they bought into this whole backup mentality. They bought into this whole idea that Kane was undroppable despite him having poor games. And therefore, I think also affected our transfer policy. It certainly affected our transfer policy when it came to buying strikers, but I also think it affected our policy when it came to replacing Eriksen and Dele Alli. Because again, we never replaced them. And one of the reasons why we didn't replace them is because Harry Kane was capable of creating and scoring. So the club probably then thought, well, why do we need to go? We've got this machine here who can do both. And can you blame them? And if anything, if we sell Kane, we can get top dollar because he's a star player, right? So, and there is some truth to that. But I just think that we created this problem for ourselves because we should never ever get too obsessed with one player in the team. I don't care who they are, superstar or no superstar. You should always have competition for places. And if somebody is an elite person, fine, they're an elite and they continue to play. But you still should be bringing players who can feasibly step into those people's positions. And we never did that. And I think that was the mentality of Tottenham. And this is where the whole Spursy kind of mentality comes in, because it's like we're not trying to go beyond that. We're trying to say, like, this is what it is, and we're staying at this level. And by the way, none of this was Harry Kane's fault. He didn't bring this on himself, but I just think everything around him created this. And so I just felt that. And so when Harry Kane's contract, the season before last, when Man City were in for him, I would have sold Harry Kane then. Yeah? Not because Harry Kane was a bad player, not because I would have necessarily wanted Harry Kane to leave per se, but I just felt that in order for Tottenham to move forward, in order for the club to progress in the way that we need to progress, we need to let him go, because we've got an unhealthy relationship with this guy. We're obsessed with him, and it's not a healthy obsession. And so when Kane was now being rumoured to have left in this summer's transfer window, we can't afford to let Kane go, we're going to struggle. I even heard that clown Paul Merson was saying, I like Paul Merson to be fair, but he comes up with some silly comments sometimes. He was saying, if Harry Kane leaves Spurs, Tottenham will finish bottom half. I mean, what a ridiculous assertion. Or if we took Harry Kane's goals out of Tottenham would finish in the second, fourth from bottom. It's just ridiculous to suggest such a thing. But this is the mentality, and people bought into this stuff. And, but I never thought that. I thought, no, you get rid of Harry Kane. And I was glad that we got rid of him, because now we're seeing what Tottenham can become. Because now we're building a team, we're building a structure, we're creating a structure that even when players are missing, people can be rotated, people can come in and out of positions. And if people don't perform, other people can come in. We had too many times where Hugo Lloris, how many mistakes did Hugo Lloris have to make before getting dropped? Virtually never got dropped despite the clangers he'd make. Dele Alli was another one. Christian Eriksen was another one. And Harry Kane was another one. And I think this hindered Tottenham. And obviously Harry Kane was the last person out of that quartet. Well, Hugo's still there, but for all intents and purposes, he's not there. Harry Kane was the last one to move on. And it was the one that the club didn't really want to move on. They would have wanted him to sign a contract. But, but at the same time, I think it's been the best for Tottenham Hotspur. And we're now starting to see. My only hope is that they don't do the same thing with James Maddison. Build a team around him, yes, but have other players around him and players under him that if he's missing can come in, or if he's on form, they can contribute. Don't have this over-reliance. Don't become the James Maddison team just like we became the Harry Kane team. And so this is the reason why I always felt it was a good idea for Tottenham to sell Harry Kane and move beyond him. And I felt we would be better off without him. And so far, it is proven to be the case. What do you think? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Or do you think that actually we would have been better with Harry Kane in the team? Bearing in mind that we probably wouldn't have made some of the signings, which is what I'm saying. It actually affected our transfer policy. And even though we signed James Maddison whilst Harry Kane was still at the club, they made these signings with the view that they knew Harry Kane was leaving. So would we even make some of the signings if Harry Kane was still there? And that's the question you have to think about. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that did you ever think that we would need to get rid of Harry Kane to become a better club? Or was you someone who felt that, no, we should have kept Harry Kane and still bought other players, even though the players that we were buying to support Harry Kane were significantly inferior? Let me know in the comment section below.